Hi, good morning, Catherine.
Good morning, Dan. Good morning. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. Thank you. I'm very grateful this morning to see you.
Yes, me too.
You are very much welcome.
Thank you very much. It's nice to see you too. I can see John at the background. Please say good morning to John.
Yes, I've said good morning to him.
Okay.
I'm admitting the participants.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Kennedy. Catherine. Catherine.
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Hakuna karamu hapo kwa meza. Catherine, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Sasa, this is what I want you to do. I want you to I want you to I want you to start your training.
Yes.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me? Good morning.
Yes. I want you to start your training.
Yes. Can you hear me? No, mine is not muted. They're muted. Then you are muted. Then you are muted.
I want you to start your training. Sawa sawa.
Yes, that is good. I'm happy.
So I'm at Lake Naivasha Resort where I'm attending the 4th annual HR Symposium.
Okay.
So this is multitasking. Continue with diversity management training as I handle something else.
Okay.
I'll continue admitting people, the participants, as they come in. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. Good. I'm happy with that. Good morning, Josephine. Good morning, Lynette. Good morning, Lillian. How are you today?
Morning.
Yeah, unmute yourself. Say good morning.
Good morning, Catherine. It's Lynette.
Fantastic. Yeah. Josephine, unmute yourself.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, everybody. How are you doing? I hope you had a good evening.
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I'm happy. I'm sure you are all in yesterday's webinar, the first part series. Did you?
Yes.
Yes, you are. Fantastic. Good. I'm happy that we can continue with the second part series and tomorrow conclude it on the third part series just to see how big diversity can take us, where it can take us, where it's supposed to be taking us as individuals, as organizations, and also how we can implement some of the things that we'll be discussing. So feel very free to participate, feel very free to ask questions, contribute things that we see that could help us, experiences that you have gone through to make diversity strong in your organizations, or even things that you think that can be implemented in your organization, and what would be some of the challenges that you see, or what will be some of the quick wins that you can see in terms of bringing diversity management closer to your organizations. I think it's a great topic, no doubt about it. And definitely I will go back and ask a recap of yesterday's webinar, what we learned from it, what we took from it, what our expectations are this morning, so that we're able just to incrementally make sure that we are going on and we are keeping the pace and we are upping our game. I think that's the most important thing. And of course, appreciating you for making time out of your busy schedules. I know everyone is busy, just to come and learn and take new experiences out there. So that's very commendable. I would like us to start with a word of prayer. Always good to go in front of God to ask Him to bless our day. Who would like to pray for us as other people join the webinar? Who would like to pray for us? Josephine, Lynette, Lillian, one of you, please volunteer to pray. One of us volunteers to pray. Lillian?
We can pray the Lord's Prayer.
Yes, we can. That's good. Yeah. Okay.
Our
All of
Father,
us who
our
art in
Father,
heaven,
hallowed be thy
Hallowed
name,
be thy name,
thy kingdom
the
come,
kingdom come,
okay.
your
thy
will
will
Your
be
be
will
done
be
on
done
done
earth
on earth
as
as it is in
it
heaven.
is
in
in
heaven.
heaven.
Give
Give us
us
this
Give
this
us
day our
day
this
daily
day
our
our
bread,
daily
daily
bread.
bread,
and
Forgive
and
forgive
us
us
forgive
our
us
our
our
trespasses
trespasses,
trespasses,
as
as
we
we
forgive
forgive
those
those
who
who
trespass
trespass
against
against us.
us.
lead us
Lead
not
us
into
Lead
not
us
into
not into
temptation,
temptation,
and deliver us
but
but
from
deliver
deliver
us
us
from
from
evil.
evil.
for
For thine is the
thine
The
kingdom, the
kingdom,
power, and the
the power,
glory,
and the
yours,
glory, forever
now and
and ever.
forevermore.
Amen.
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 Great. Thank you. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. I love the Lord's Prayer, and ask me why. Because it's so compact to everything um, that we need to do as human beings, asking for help, asking for forgiveness, asking that God protects us and blesses us in many things. So thank you, Lillian, for that. I appreciate. So if I have not interacted with you before, my name is Catherine Ramongi. I'm a HR practitioner and I've got about 25 years of work experience. I work at a strategic level and also sometimes at operational level. I partner with ACHRP because I'm very passionate about training. I'm also very passionate about coaching. I'm an executive coach. I actually lecture coaching at the College of Human Resource. So if you're doing your CHRP, you might meet me there with another pen, not the black pen that I'm holding today. Sometimes I hold the red pen of a teacher, so it's always nice. And I also lecture strategy. So I'm sure it's something that we're all aspiring. Either we are doing it or we are planning to do it. If it's in your line of duty, I think it's something nice. And these courses, I keep on saying, they are almost revision and replication of what you meet at the CHRP. And also they also really help you to be able to navigate the world of work, be able to aim higher depending on where you are in your career, whether you want to get a promotion, whether you're looking for a new job, whether you're looking at being a mentor. I think that is important. It's nice also to become a coach. I think there are many opportunities, business opportunities, not just monetary wise, but also really actualizing what you can do for others. I think that's the most important thing. So it's nice that we can continue having all sorts of engagements around our career and our growth. And I keep on saying, put your antennas out there, become more curious, see what is happening out there, ask for support, build your networks. I think this is a real good forum where we can continue to build networks around ourselves and things like that. So really, very warm welcome. That is me, and very happy that we can engage. You can also put your chats and questions on the chat group. Feel free also to raise your hand and we'll give you an opportunity. But I also keep on saying that it's important for us really to unmute ourselves and to be able to learn, because this really will become a long-term driver and strategy on how trainings are going to be held in organizations. So let's purpose to be extremely present so that we don't miss important points that really you could have said, oh, what did they say? How can I really, I missed that. So don't miss out on the most important things, and everything is important. So my encouragement to you is let's do it. Let's make sure that we can do that. Okay, so a recap of yesterday. What did we learn? What our real aha moments, takeaway, and what our expectations for today? Anyone? Feel free to unmute yourself. What did we learn yesterday? What did we take away? What are our expectations for today? You know. Anybody? Please unmute yourselves. Welcome, Eric, Grace, Mudhoni, Sheila. Unmute yourselves, please. Tell me how yesterday was. What did you learn? What was really interesting for you? Lillian, maybe you can start us off.
Okay. I think what I'll go straight to in terms of what I took away is the aspect of achieving diversity, whereby we look at the ideal situation and the realistic situation, and then also the approaches, the approaches for. I'm just trying to refer approaches to understand culture in organization, whereby we looked at 3 different approaches, and the one that stood out for me was for the hosted model, which has component of power distancing, and there's the power distancing. Masculine versus feminine, individual versus collectivism, long term versus short term, understanding avoidance. So I think I was able to kind of relate to that, and also at our workplaces, and of course the importance of embracing diversity.
Very true. Yeah. Especially when we look at diversity from a real cultural African context, is that we look at hierarchy a lot, you know, the seniors versus the elderly, versus the younger people. There's a lot of that can create diversity, which is not necessarily applicable to other cultures. So whatever. And also power distance that continues to be around the world, where in organizations we look at people in the C-suite having more maybe power, you know, and we think, well, we cannot approach them, and how do we make sure that we deal with them? But when you think about the C-suite, they just have extra responsibility. Do you agree with that? They have extra responsibility of making sure that they they run the organization, and they set the vision, they set the strategy, and they continue guiding and making sure that we achieve objectives, because everybody is important. And sometimes we miss that when there's too much power distance between one cadre of staff with the other. I agree. Yeah. So well done, Lynette. Sorry, I've been choked by. Anybody else? Takeaways yesterday? Anybody else? We learned from takeaways. What really stood out for you? Must have taken much more out. Josephine Kure, what you took out? Yeah.
Hi.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, for me, what I took is the importance of diversity in organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because to me, it brings a sense of belonging in the organization, whereby every feels that they belong in the organization, looking at the culture, different backgrounds, ethnicity, sexual orientations, things like that. And it is very important for organizations to embrace diversity. An example in our organization, we are good in that.
Oh,
We are a
fantastic.
diverse organization.
And do
Yes.
people feel, do people feel it? You know, we could have all this kind of really written but not implied, you know, and that's what many people struggle with, is really the implementation part of saying that we are diverse, this is what we stand for, there's no discrimination, we are welcome all sorts of people in organization, race, color, sexual orientation, you know, religion. We do not discriminate, you know, so we really are here to support. But sometimes we have all those whatever, but the undertones, the implying it now becomes the harder bit, and that's what organizations struggle with. So thank you, Josephine, for just letting us know that in your organization you are really embracing it, you are living it, it's part of your DNA, and I believe that is supported by a strong culture, and we'll see how today how culture plays a real important role in driving diversity. Great. Someone else? Anna Musa, were you there yesterday? You can unmute yourself, you can say hello. No, anybody else? Wilfred, your learnings from yesterday, or what are your expectations for today? Can you hear me? Can unmute yourself. Okay, great. So let me share my screen as and feel free to time in to be able to contribute and share your experiences or your expectations for today as we go along. So allow me to share my screen. Where is it? Share screen, and let me know when you see my screen. Is it there? Everyone can see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Oh, fantastic. Good. Yeah. So overall, what was the definition? What was definition of diversity? In broadly put, you know, diversity. We are all very high on diversity right now as organizations. We have great programs around diversity and inclusion. They're almost the center stage of our organizations right now, and it's been brought very close home after if you work for multinationals, well now especially if it's an American company, where following the protest a couple of months ago, the Black Lives Matter. So the world awakened around diversity and inclusion, and I'm sure it was something that we discussed yesterday at length, and we'll continue discussing that. And now, what the movement that is there for many organizations, and I say especially American-based organizations, is that all lives matter. I'm sure you've heard that, isn't it? The now what we are saying, it's all lives matter, and many organizations have been put to task to see whether they are really embracing diversity in a way that everybody feels included. And what I have just said earlier is that we have all these nice things, you know, but we actually just don't actualize it. You know, we pay a lot of lip service around diversity and inclusion, but we just feel the undertones. Really, this is not what I really signed up for, and it's not going well for me. So we want to really look inwardly around all lives matters, and how diversity would really help us in creating those strong programs. Okay, so overall definition of diversity, just broadly, what do you think it is? Just a recap from yesterday as well. Mimi sijui. Recap. Recap.
In terms of definition, it was basically the aspect of acknowledging, understanding, and accepting, valuing and celebrating differences among people with respect, of course, to age, class, ethnicity, gender, physical and mental ability, etc.
Exactly, yeah. So embracing, the key word is just embracing everybody the way they look, we are very quick to judge people, and we judge people based on our standards, isn't it? And sometimes as we become more self-aware, there will be a lot of importance around diversity and emotional intelligence. Those two, we cannot fail to know that they go hand in hand, because many a times is when we judge people using our own standards, isn't it? Maybe ladies can attest to this. When we bring in someone, a nanny or house help to help us around our homes and stuff like that, or gardeners or drivers or whoever that we employ, sometimes we judge them using our own standards because this is what we expect them, but when you think that let me just step back and be able to give them and empower them to do the best. And when you see that they are doing the best and it's not up to your standards, then what you do, it's easier for you to have an incremental way of making sure that they can reach up to your standards, instead of just the first time not giving them a chance. So let's be very aware that most of the times is that when we judge people with our standards, and stuff like that. But one of the things that we should never let down our guard is around our values. Never let down your guard because you have a dishonest person and a dishonest colleague, or a family member, and you know that that goes against the moral fabric of the society. That is something that you cannot let your guard down for. But if it's a driver who drives to at neck breaking speed, you can tell him, hey, that's not how you drive, or a driver who doesn't renew their license or wear their seat belt or something like that. Those are things that you must teach them, because they're the right things to do and stuff like that. Or maybe someone who just doesn't think that well, the car has to be ready by 8 for us to be able to leave. They are still wiping the car by 8:05. The windows are not ready. So judging people, making sure that we can be able to do that. And that's embracing diversity. But what happens is that we are very quick to, you'll see me standing or sitting or stuff like that. So just to make sure that I can have a bit of diversity around my own comfort zone, if we call it like that. So great. So how have you embraced diversity as an individual around your workplace or around your family? Are you quick to judge people using your own standards, using your own yardstick? Anyone experience? Just very quickly, how have we how have you embraced diversity? Not even within just the policy. Do you, or as a country, do we embrace diversity? Or maybe that would be really a good discussion around diversity as a country. Our country, Kenya, do you think that we embrace diversity? If you were to be asked by someone who's come in the country for the very first time, a foreigner, and comes and says, what kind of diversity do you have in this country? You can say, of course we have a lot of diversity, but do we really embrace diversity? And they say, well, give me on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest and 1 being the lowest, where would you score our diversity based on embracing it totally? Anyone? There's no right or wrong. We're just trying to see where we are also as a country, because we're able to plug in, you know, in many other circumstances. How do we show ourselves up? Because we work with many Kenyans in organizations, and if we don't look at it from a national front, it also means it becomes very difficult for, it can be a bit difficult for us to embrace it totally from an organization point of view. Anyone? Please unmute
I
yourself.
I think we do to some extent as a country, and of course there are some policies that are still lagging behind, like the gender rule. But with the constitution, we have an aspect whereby we are actually embracing it, inclusivity.
Okay, yeah. So you think that we embrace it to a certain extent? Mm, yeah, I agree that we have a wonderful constitution. We have wonderful policies that the government develops. Sometimes I think the challenge sometimes is the actualization of what's supposed to be done, or people not being fully committed, let me put it like that, to making sure that they actualize that. Yeah, someone else? Embracing it. We are talking, do we really embrace diversity in this country? Anyone? Someone else? Please unmute yourself. Anna Mosau says not all organizations have embraced diversity, especially in terms of sexual orientation and religion. Yeah, very true. Yeah, some will be very snotty around those areas. Yeah, continue putting them down in the chat. So do we embrace diversity as a country? Please, let's make it lively so that we're able to learn and maybe be able to move forward. Just on a scale of 1 to 10, what are your, anybody else? Anybody? You can drop it in the chat, or you can just unmute yourself. I think unmuting is much better. Okay, Wilfred says, I can say we are at 7. We lag mainly because of political intolerances, which end up negatively influencing perceptions some people towards others or their sentiments. The political feelings infiltrate organizations as well, unfortunately. Very true. That's why I was going to sum it up, is that the political arena in this country can really diluted our diversity, um, the gains that we have had around, you know, and we see every 5 years, it's so polarized around, well, I'll vote along tribal lines, I will put in my person and stuff like that, instead of us really looking at the bigger picture. And sometimes it's very unfortunate for the fact that me and you, who are so attuned to making sure that we can change the country totally, you know, we still go back and not embrace diversity wholeheartedly during those times, you know. So it's really something that it's a case study, I think, that needs to be looked into. And sometimes we also say that, compared maybe with the just concluded elections in the United States, where we saw it's really about two camps, two political parties. I could stand corrected around whether there is a majority of more race inclined to vote for Republicans or Democrats or something like that. But if we were all one tribe in Kenya, let's call ourselves tribe ABC, all of us, how would that play out? what would be making the difference in terms of us going to the polls, you know. But I love the fact that on a larger scale, where someone says, and I agree to 7, is that we really our diverse cultures really brings to the fore a lot of beauty around the country. Our diverse tribes and languages really bring that. Our ability to embrace different religions as a country is really nice and strong, you know. So I think there's much more that we can do around us as people, as Kenyans, you know. And then of course now the diversity of our country, that we're endowed with all this beauty, you know, magical Kenya. We have everything going for us. We have the parks, we have the forests, we have the oceans, you know. It's really there's a lot around whatever, and that also plays a big role in terms of how it shapes us as people, you know, in terms of seeing the world at a different view. So I think we've got great opportunities. Unfortunately, sometimes you don't embrace them, and all this now goes, like someone has says, Wilfred has says, it really goes into organizations, especially when we look at public offices where there's that can easily find its way into, and when it's not checked, then it almost becomes the culture, and people just say, well, I'm not sure that this is the kind of place that I would like to work. So they keep missing great talent, get great opportunities. But some people just say, well, I'm okay. I'm okay just playing this politics and engaging at this level and stuff like that. So it's important for us to see how the bigger picture of the country and who we are, how it actually comes and plays a role in our family level, and also at the work level, or even at the business level. So that's what I think is very important. Anybody else before we move pretty quickly? Anybody else? Is it whatever? So today we want to see how communicating across various cultures, you know, in these times when and I won't read everything, I'd want us to really think high level and discuss around communication and how cultures really play a big role in diversity. In these times when global corporations operate in many countries across the world, it is important for the employees to know this, for employees in these organizations to know that the nuisances of intercultural communication. It is important to keep in mind that intercultural communication depends on a variety of factors that include specifics of language, style, body, language, and substance. I'm sure maybe some of us in this webinar work in in international organizations, or or um, or have friends or relatives who work in those, and maybe there's an aspect of them discussing, wow, okay, this company is born out of this country, either from Europe or America or Asia, and it's come and set shop here. And all of a sudden, the kind of things that they do, we actually take a double take and just think, Allah, what has happened here? So we want to talk today around how communicating across cultures can engage or can drive diversity in organizations. So I would like us to unmute ourselves and see how, and share experiences of how it is to work in organizations that have different cultures, and maybe just say one or two cultures that you have experienced, and did that work for you or did that work against you? Anybody? And it doesn't have, I mean, you're entitled to your opinion around, I've worked with Nigerians, they're loud, they have, I've it's not stereotyping, something like that. You get what I mean? I worked with the French don't really care who's around the table. They'll continue speaking French and I can't hear French. You get what I mean? So, and how does that make you feel, you know? I've worked with people with styles, and the way they come dressed to work, we just think, are you going for a party, a nightclub kind of dancing thing? And we are supposed to be going for a board meeting. You get what I mean? So those kind of things. What have you experienced at your place of work that really you thought, well, it goes against maybe the culture that I believe in, the beliefs that I know, and all of a sudden I find myself here? Anybody? Please unmute yourself.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
What I can say about that is my experience is that you find one tribe, you're in a meeting, non-official meeting, and there's one particular tribe in that meeting. They start conversing in that language. When you are in an official meeting, or they come to the office where you are with your senior, the one tribe meets another senior tribesmate, they start discussing in their mother tongue in the same office you're seated in. It makes me feel so bad. That's one. Another bit is on the recruitment. One tribe just recruiting without shame.
Without shame. Wow.
Without shame. Recruiting their own
Yeah.
tribesmen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It makes you feel bad, isn't it? Yeah. So exactly. Do you speak up? Do you tell them, hey, we can't understand what you're saying?
Sometimes you do in a joking way, because these are seniors you're dealing with. Because you also don't want to, your seniors, they're seniors. You're just a junior person down there. Sometimes you feel, even if I say something, it won't really change much. So it's a deeply rooted bad culture that is, I don't know if it's just in the organization I had experience in, or it's just in Kenya. It's just a bad culture.
Yeah. Okay. Bad
Yes.
culture where people will speak their language, and not okay in the world that other people are here. It's at the workplace and stuff like that. Yeah. Anybody else? And that's why we say, again, I like what you have said, and what we started off saying is that the seniors are setting that pace, and the power distance. I'm trying to protect my job. I'm down here. I don't know what they will think when that is when I put my views, and I make my opinions known. So how do I feel? Am I protected? That's why I say that indeed there will be leaders in an organization, and there will be people who are also junior in the organization. But what is the responsibility of the seniors? They just have more responsibility, nothing else. We are all the same across, bringing in the much needed talent that needs to drive the business. Someone else? Same experience, different experience? Someone else? Someone else? Does that happen a lot in organizations, or what have you done about it as well? What have you done about it? Anybody? Anybody? Can you mute yourself? Florence, Caroline, Grace, Maria, Mary, Ronnie, my namesake, Patricia, Patrick, Rose. Anybody would like to say something? So I'd like to give an experience around people talking their language in the organizations. And as HR, then what is our role around making sure that people can do that? So I went to pick some goods in a certain organization. I will not say it. And so I was waiting to pick the goods at the customer service desk. I sat there, and someone had told me, brace yourself, so go with your book, or go ready, that the lead time for getting your goods would be about 1 hour. So I went, I sat. They observed the protocols of social distancing and stuff like that. So I'm seated there, and from the askari at the desk from the security guard, very good customer service and stuff, and going in. But it ended there. The real good customer service ended there. And then I went and sat waiting for my goods, and I was looking at their values, their mission, how people are doing work here. And then there was posters around the offices says that the official language of communication is English and Kiswahili. And that's what it should be. And it looks as if they were really, they struggle with that. And of course, now when I saw that, it really caught my eye to hear what what people will be talking, the employees in these organizations will be talking. And of course, they were talking their mother tongue. I mean, I through and through, and I could see that they have they don't care about the instructions that they have been given. You know, they go about their normal duties. They are chatting and processing the orders in their mother tongue and stuff like that. And they just said how difficult it is for other organizations, for other people from other tribes to be able to work in this organization. If it can actually be put as a public notice out there, that whatever. And I felt sorry for them. And anyway, I I just took my goods and went. And of course, the person who was serving me served me in English, and I went my way. So I also used to work in an organization where there was a lot of people speaking their mother tongue. You know, different. We had diverse whatever, but you could find that. When people are together, let's say one department, they maybe a small team of about 5 people, and 4 are from the same tribe, they would ordinarily speak their mother tongue. So every time I used to find that, I would just say, this is not XYZ county government, or stuff like that, and pass it, and with a punch line, so how is XYZ supposed to be listening to your conversation, whether you are talking about a football game that happened yesterday and stuff like that. How are they supposed to be contributing to this, or whatever things that can build this other person. So, and I made it my business as Catherine that I will champion, around town hall meetings, line managers, and say, it's important. We know that that is part of our diversity and our culture, but we cannot be seen to have people speaking their mother tongue and not especially accommodating other people in conversations, whether they are personal conversations or whether they are business conversations, and make it deliberate effort, and you do not set the pace, so, and also making sure that we had champions, around around that, saying the advantages and talking around it in terms of diversity and inclusion, as really bringing in people to make sure that people feel that they belong, because inclusion is people feeling that they actually belong to this organization. So it's important. I know it's not ideal. It might not be ideal in some organizations. You might not be able to have that opportunity and that ability to be able to drive that. And then what are the consequences? Do we ever put consequences around? We have said we have tried this, and we are going to give people an opportunity to change and stuff like that. And if they are not changing, what's going to happen? Would we put in consequences around that? Or people would really just think, well, we're even being punished now. It's like high school. You remember when you didn't speak English or you didn't speak Kiswahili, you were given a bone? I'm sure you are all millennials here. I wish I could see your faces, but during our time when we went to school, 1900 uko, you were given a bone, and you carried a bone round your neck the whole day, and people would know that you were caught talking your mother tongue and stuff like that. So what are the consequences? And adults and people at place of work do not like consequences because they're being punished. So the ability to change behavior and to change attitude creates a strong pillar. Attitude and behavior is a strong pillar towards embracing diversity in cultures. So have you ever instituted any consequences around diversity in your organization? Anyone? Or you would say, no, 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 that's too much. We are going to be, it's too much now. Let's just leave it at what it is. We are happy to be where we are right now. Anyone? Anyone? Please unmute yourself, or we are just happy to be in the status quo of no consequences. We don't want to be unpopular. We don't want to be unpopular. Or even an example. Anyone? Okay. Yeah. Maybe another example I can give, which was really heavily criticized, if you like to read and just look at people's opinions around diversity. Ngugi wa Thiong'o, the acclaimed writer who recently, just a few months ago, was awarded the Catalonia Prize, a very coveted one and also a very controversial one, where it looks at embracing diversity in countries. So his acceptance speech was in Kikuyu. Anybody who remembers what happened? The opinions, the different opinions varied from across the world, and especially Kenyans. Anyone? Or even another day when the president spoke in Kikuyu, and what happened to him? The different valid opinions from people. Anyone? So there was a lot of varied opinions around Ngugi wa Thiong'o's acceptance speech in Kikuyu. Many people said, we didn't understand what he said, which was true. He would have spoken in Kiswahili, which would have been more a wider reach around that. And it just goes on to show that he didn't take that, that prize was not meant for the whole country. It was not a win for the whole country. And people thought that we've given Ngugi a lot of opportunities and platforms to be where he is. You know, we've supported him as a country, and he just went and recognized only one tribe in this country, you know. So there was a lot of talk around there, and of course other people saying that, well, it was to showcase his work of writing in Kikuyu of many years, and this it was what he's come to do. Can we embrace other languages as well? People writing in those languages, being very successful in that. So there was a lot of varied opinions around that. I felt, well, poor boy, I don't know where I lay. Maybe it's just because of Kikuyu, then I was able to understand and hear his speech and maybe quickly understand what he was saying and stuff like that. But I also put myself in the other people's shoes who really like Ngugi, they follow him, and they were not able to actually understand whatever. So from that aspect, maybe should he have used Kiswahili because he's well liked and whatever. So did he lose points? Did people feel that, well, now, okay, that's it. I'll not take you as an authority and someone who sets the pace? Could have, to a certain extent. So as a public figure, what I'm saying is that as a public figure, you must always know who your audience is, how your message is going to be taken across, because sometimes we don't have another chance to make a second impression, isn't it? So at every level, you must think of how your communication, how you are able to, your language, your style, your body language and substance really create a big difference to the audience that you're going to be addressing. And that's why, thank you, Sabrina. I think it was Sabrina who came and said the seniors must be able to know that we look up to them. they have that responsibility and be able to move forward. Yeah, is that okay? So those are the kind of examples that I wanted to cite. So moving on further, one has to be sensitive, and that's what I've just talking about. So I just highlight around this, has to be sensitive to the fact that it is acceptable in one culture. What is acceptable in one culture might be prohibitive to another culture. Most important aspects in culture communication on gender aspects were a way in which employees address the issue of women at the workplace. So can we cite examples where that we can be able to look at cultures and how they play a big role? What some cultures, even international cultures, what one culture embraces is something else that another culture does not embrace. Anyone quickly as I
Maybe in the work setting, with the organization we work with, it's a bilingual, so we work a lot with West Africa. And one thing I would say about West Africa, they are so they embrace their culture in terms of the way they dress. They believe so much in their culture, so that's one thing I've kind of like appreciated, because you'll find on Fridays they'll make an effort to dress in their cultural attire, which I appreciated that from them. Thank you.
Catherine,
sorry
unmute yourself.
I've been saying all that, yeah, speaking and whatever. So thank you. What I was saying is that I love that the West Africans, we all know that they are very happy around their traditional dressing, their food and stuff like that. So it's something that I would like to embrace. Even the government the other day asked all employees that on Friday they should actually be doing what? They should be putting on they should don themselves in African attire. I don't know whether that still happens, or maybe now that there are more people working from home, whether that has continued to happen, but I also don't see them a lot in terms of whatever. But I like the memes that go around with the president, whether he wears the best shirt he has. I'm sure we still find a thing to think of, well, he'll come with the same shirt and this is what he will say. We are nice around making sure that we can also create fun around the things that really, even in the worst of moments, we can still see humor. I remember Mutahi Kagwe putting on a very nice African print shirt, and because it had people zeroed down and said, you see, it even has kind of corona, and it's true, the virus, and poor boy, he must have gone and maybe burnt the shirt and will never put it on again. Yeah. Anyone else around cultures and stuff like that? Things that in our culture would be construed to be extremely offensive compared to other cultures. Anyone else?
Catherine, this is Sabrina.
Yeah.
I once worked in a school setting,
Yeah.
and the director used to operate from Canada. So when she came back to the school, she would put on shorts, and that's the cost. And we had so many Muslims,
Yeah.
and so it was so offensive to the parents, and they would come and complain to us, behind her back, and that cost most of it cost her to lose people. Yeah, they're like, no,
Yeah,
because she kept
students.
on coming, and she's dressing in funny, very very short shorts, and she's
Yeah.
coming to school to check around. So that was not amusing to them.
Yeah. Did anybody ever go out to her and say, well, in our culture, we wouldn't embrace this and I would ask you to change? And it's anybody who was able to,
I did at one point
yeah.
talk to her, So I think somewhere along the line, she started coming dressing up in, long skirts.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Someone
Yeah.
who's able to listen and see what it is, that's a good leader. And nobody speaks truth to power. Isn't that a good saying? That nobody will ever go and tell that the king is naked, but you are happy to go and tell her. And she used her own emotional intelligence to be able to work around it. Yeah. So I also remember a time when I used to work for a certain NGO, and we used to operate in the northern, some of the programs were in the northern part of the country, and we used to let people know that if you work there, embrace the culture. It's easier for you to get acceptance and be able to program the work, to get the work done. And if you are going for a field visit, it will not kill you for 3 days really to respect the culture, especially ladies, um dress appropriately, nothing will stop you, nothing for 2 days if you put on a long sleeve blouse and a long skirt, and maybe even if you really are really kind and don't mind, do you mind just covering your head, that won't kill you, even with your latest hairstyle that you wanted to go out, depending again on what you want to achieve, you know embracing other people, embracing culture, being for you to be able to do what being able to do the work a bit more easily and a bit more with ease and acceptance. Okay, so thank you for those examples, and I'm sure you can cite many more, and how they have actually influenced you positively or negatively. The other aspect of a cross-cultural communication is the issue of how cultural differences are handled. Yeah, hence, one must be cognizant of cultural differences and not say or do anything would be interpreted in a different manner. Finally, cross-cultural communication is all about sensitivity and having empathy with the person from the other culture. Hence, it goes beyond differences and depends largely on an individual who is communicating. Do we agree with that? Like when Sabrina went out and told the director, this is what is acceptable in this culture. Would you mind? With sensitivity and empathy, that is something that we forget many, many, many times around being empathetic in this way. It's my culture, you need to whatever we want to judge them based on those lenses. So it's even when we have many cultures in organizations, we also are bound to be able to embrace them. Let's talk about our our judgmental behavior towards working with the Asian community. Let's be real and let's hear what do we embrace them fully? Is it because of what they have done in the past, or do we all lump them in one big box? Or even the Chinese now, and how can we embrace culture so that we have strong diversity programs in the organizations? Someone you experience, or just what you think about those cultures, because they are key employers in this country. Anyone?
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, my name is Patrick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just give my own observation. That I think previously my thinking about maybe people holding leadership positions who are from the Asian community is that they are unreasonable, they are overbearing, and so on and so forth. But having interacted with some of them closely now, people who I know well, I've come to realize that probably based on their culture, their quality or standards in terms of work output are very high, and their intention really, when you look at it, it's just that they don't want to compromise on successes in whatever they endeavor to do. So over a period, I've come to realize that really it's not like they want to be unreasonable. It's just that to a great extent, they don't want to compromise on standards. Yeah, but that's my own observation.
Own observation, yeah, that they can be, we think that they're overbearing, they're not fair, and whatever. But Patrick has come to know, come to learn and maybe come to appreciate that it's the commitment and the accomplishment of what they want to do that really takes them to the next level. Someone else of a different opinion, contrary opinion, has worked with them. What has been the kind of experience that you have? Yeah, real or imagined? Anyone? Anyone? Anyone
Hello,
else?
Catherine.
Hello.
Yeah. I have not worked with the Asians, but I've interacted with them. And through the interactions, you'll find out that they're thorough. Even where I take my kids, I've been taking my kids to Asian schools. So you find the other Asian kids, they are really into scoring high grades because they are keen to get to be perfect. Yeah, even in sports, they are keen to be or they are pushed. So that's actually, I think it follows them in life, where they work. They love things perfection. They love
Okay.
good work. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Around being able to want perfection, to want the best. Yeah. And you know the name that we give them? Slave drivers, isn't it? They said these are slave drivers. They want us to work extremely hard. They don't give us a break and stuff like that. Yeah. Someone else who's met them from a different perspective or just the imagination and stuff like that? Someone else? Someone else?
Hello.
Hello?
Hello, how are you, Catherine?
I'm fine, thank you.
Are you getting me? Oh, you are getting me?
Yeah.
This is Wilfred.
Yeah.
I just wanted to share a personal experience, historical though, but how culture can also be streamlined using policy. When I came to Nairobi sometimes in early 90 to the university, and there used to be the Asian community along River Road. So every other time I could go buy something there, I would bargain for lowering of the, they could tell me, if you want it at this much, maybe 100 shillings, I'll give you without the receipt. But if you want a receipt, then I'll sell you at 120. So you choose. And that was a bad culture because that was tax evasion for the government. But through KRA systems now, that bad culture has been tamed by bringing in the ETR, and automatically then they are compelled to change from that bad culture to streamlining the way things are being done. So from that perspective, we could see the Asian community was not compliant with the government regulations and for all the bad reasons. But now that policy has been streamlined, and that's what we need to do in organization, then that culture automatically has just been streamlined.
Exactly. Thank you, Wilfred, for that sharing, and just comes to validate our earlier point of saying, what would you institute consequences around bad behavior and people not following the rule of the law? And we know that people want the easiest way out in life. I want to make the most, for myself and keep it to myself. So that's a humankind way of reasoning. We want more, we are never content and stuff like that. So when we see one person, if the shopkeeper there is doing that, they are they come from that culture. Even me, I can do it, you know. So it becomes a culture of the organization, where of the country, where everybody wants to evade duty one way or another. But it was started from one person, then it keeps building. It builds until consequences have to be whatever. One person in the organization, and you'll agree with me, can do one thing and spoils for everyone, isn't it? Just one thing across, you didn't follow it, you took advantage of it, and now we've always done it. Nobody has ever gotten on the wrong side of the law, but someone spoils it, and rules are told, no, okay, we have to put a policy, and this is not going to be, you'll not get this benefit anymore. So I totally agree. So it's important even to be able to embrace the cultures that we have in the organization. Stereotyping, we have a lot of stereotyping, prejudices around the Asian community and the Chinese community. We have seen in the news where they have actually not embraced a culture, and they have gone against the grind of, against the law in terms of their labor laws and stuff like that. And people have not been very happy about it. And there's been a lot of uproar around that. But does that make us see them in that light 24/7, 365? That's what we need to ask ourselves, you know, because we know that everybody should be taken from an individual point of view. I take Wilfred as an individual, I take Catherine as an individual, I take Lillian as an individual, but we have all come together to do one common purpose in this organization. So that's why we should be able to be embracing diversity. So culture plays a very important role. Would in your opinion, and I like to ask that because then it opens debate around the topic that we are discussing. Do you think that around everything else, when we put culture, let's say we draw a circle here. You can see my circle. Let me draw the circle here. And all these other are supporting frameworks of recruitments, whatever. I put here culture and diversity and inclusion. Can you see? Can you see my diagram? Can you see it? In the middle, the big middle is culture, diversity and inclusion. Do you think that diversity and inclusion is the enabler of everything else that happens in the organization? Yes or no? Anyone? When you think about diversity since yesterday to now, do you think it is the greatest enabler for us to have all these other functions that rotate around HR, in your opinion? That it helps us in succession planning, it helps us in recruitment and selection, it helps us in performance management. Do you think that it's the glue that holds whatever? Do you think it's silicon? Someone?
Yes, I would think so.
Why do you think so?
Because I would look at it in terms of implementation. If you have the policies in place, and during recruitment, you implement what you've actually indicated in your policy, because then, of course, you'll be able to achieve the aspect of ensuring there's inclusivity. And as you mentioned earlier, in terms of what do you do if someone is not adhering? So if, again, there's a policy in addressing that, it then become helpful. But I believe, if we embrace that diversity, inclusivity, then it will really help in terms of the processes of recruitment. There'll be transparency, and people will actually, in terms of the outcome, everyone will be more or less there'll be an agreement in terms of the outcome because you've followed the due processes and you've embraced the diversity.
I totally agree. One of the things that really now is being followed through by any organization is how diversity and inclusion support all these other functions and pillars in our organization. because it forms culture around diversity and stuff like that. So if you don't have, and you can take this straight to the bank. In fact, we can end this webinar here by saying that if you don't have a trusting culture in your organization, which is open, empowers people, let people be free to voice their opinions, and those opinions are taken and followed through, you will struggle in the area of diversity and inclusion. Really struggle. And we know that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And now we've even said that culture, we've taken it all the way through of culture eating strategy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's true. You can have the most wonderful strategy, business objectives, products and services, but if your culture is not right, then it becomes very difficult. And one of the key enablers of your culture is diversity and inclusion. Okay, so thank you for that. I will continue reading your chats as we go along. So how do we communicate around across different cultures? How do you communicate? So we see that, as we have said, therefore, there is need for training for employees who are being sent on site to who they deal with other employees from other cultures. This would make the job of communicating across cultures easier and would reduce the chances of flux pass in the communication process. Do you agree with that? That sometimes we all come together, expatriates come, we do not give them the opportunity to even take them through what kind of cultures that we are having. And it backfires on us, and we just thought, you have the talent. You are the right person for this job. But guess what? We failed to run training cultures because we thought, we always assume everybody should have common sense. Common sense is not common to everyone, including me and you. Sometimes we do things and people wonder, did you just do that? So that's where we are saying that as HR, we should be able to have trainings on communication and cultures in organizations, whether we are a local organization, whether we are a regional organization, whether we are a multinational organization. Those programs are not just geared for multinationals, they are geared for every organization, because we know that now we have seen that in Kenya we have different tribes, you know, and nowadays we also like to massage our recruitment process and be very deliberate, and I love it. It's something that I love. And instead of saying I have this many, because it's also something very sensitive, I have this many people of this tribe in my organization, what you come and say is that the face of Kenya is represented in this organization, isn't it? It's a much more acceptable way of presenting it. But me and you know, as HR, we need to be deliberate as business and supporting line managers, as strong business executives, to go and say, would you want to balance your teams now to reflect the face of Kenya? And you're just making sure that you're driving the point home and making sure that they can open their minds around, oh, it will bring diversity. It will bring more acceptance in the organization. So even when we see one tribe being hired, we need to have those opportunities and be brave enough to come and say, we need to have the face of Kenya represented here. And I know when we went the devolution government, through the transition to devolution government, the gains that we had made so much were eroded just like that. Do you agree? Because what happened is that we went back and said 70% of employment in our counties will be from people who come from this county. And of course, people who come from that county will come from one tribe. And now we are having a problem around the other 30%. And I know in some counties, they don't even accept those 30%. There is a big problem around diversity and inclusion at county level. and we can discuss this until the cows come home from their from where they have gone to pasture this morning, isn't it? So how do we make sure that we can be able to embrace diversity around the cultures because of the kind of governance structure that we have in this organization? One of the ways to do that is we need to train employees. Are we doing that? We are doing that in a very, very small way. We are not deliberating making those programs hell for us. Is it true? Anybody who is working for the government here or the county government, are those things that you struggle with? Please share with us your experience and what we would do about it. Do you know people or your friends or your relatives or your parents? We are working across 4 generations, or your children or your grandparents who are working with the county governments, and the problem is real. What can we do? Anyone? Anyone? Or we have not thought about it from that point of view? Very quickly. Or even in your opinion, do you think that created to a certain extent a problem around how we are going to work around diversity in organizations at the county government? Quick way of governance to make sure that we take development to the people, we fast track development, but it's now come to, we have a challenge from a human perspective, from a HR perspective. Anyone? Please unmute yourself. Anyone? Please. Even in your opinion, anyone? Hmm? Mm-hmm. Anyone? Agesa, Dr. Agesa, Eric Omondi, Florence Washira. Anyone? I'm just picking up names when I go through the list of the participants, not in order, not putting you on the spot, but almost putting you on the spot. And what can we do about it? Anyone in your opinion? Kintu, Mogeni?
Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, this Patrick, maybe I can also just share my own view.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I've worked with the government before.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but I would maybe my observation would be that I think the way the devolved governments operate is in such a manner that the local people need to, or maybe have been made to feel that this is our government, and therefore when they see a dominated people from other areas, they feel that it's no longer theirs.
Okay.
Yeah, and maybe I would even just want to add a little bit more about my observation my observation about the universities, because of we have many now universities in the counties, but if you check, all the vice chancellors actually come from those communities around those counties,
Yeah,
so
great debate, yeah.
I think is that feeling that this is our own and we really need to be protective of it, and it is our person who can actually be able to manage it properly. But my view would be that maybe we don't need to do. I mean, we don't need to say 70% of the people must come from this county. Otherwise, I think we'll be it's like we'll be killing the center and maybe promoting that local, sort of situation such that people will now start feeling like, yeah, if I need a job, let me go to my county. It's that's where I'm likely to get maybe a more senior position. And I don't think it is working very well for our diversity. If I see a job advertised in Kakamega or Taveta, I think I should feel that I have an opportunity like any other person if I meet the qualifications.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's my view. I think to me maybe we should go to maybe 50-50 or or some or something near there.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
It has become a very difficult point. It was well intended, well intentioned, just like anything else that you plan, that you have the best intention for this policy. But where we say that we will get ownership, we will get commitment, and people will be proud of it. But we have seen that it's working against it in terms of people embracing what it's supposed, embracing other people from that. So this ownership has turned into a negative. This pride has turned into a negative. And what has it done? It has eroded ability to deliver and ability to get maybe the best talent to come and help you in implementing some of the things that you are struggling with. So it's a double-edged sword. But would changing of the mindset and culture, would changing of policy be one of the things? Would continuous training be one of it? Would be setting a great example from the top be some of the things that can be able to cure some of the challenges that that we are facing, though the intention from the beginning was right. There was no question about it. So we see ourselves having to undo many things around the area of diversity and inclusion at the devolved units. That continues to be very, 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 very emotive as well, unfortunately, because then I'm proud. I come from this community. I will not embrace this other person. What are you coming to tell me? After all, you go to your community and get work from there. So it's difficult. The other thing, Patrick, you have actually mentioned, and we need to be cognizant of that. And I think parents are now becoming more alive to the fact that how do I make sure that my child comes out not just with the skill of what they are going to learn, but a holistic person who's able to be who has strong emotional intelligence, who's able to embrace diversity and inclusion at all levels. Is that if I take them just to my local university, and it's fine because we needed to do that, bring whatever to the people, but really they just work with people from that community, students from that community. Where is the holistic view? So I think also there was discussion around the joint admission board, making sure that there is the mix and match. But again, what parents, when your child is taken to Garissa University, you say, no, they're not going to go there. They better not go to a university. So there's a lot to be done. Unfortunately, we don't have all the answers, but it again across culture, geographic location, what we want to see for our children and stuff like that. Because these are the same people that come to the place of work and they've only been to Kisii University, primary Kisii University, secondary Kisii High School, university Kisii. They've never, in fact, the most maybe they went was to Kakamega for Inter Games. Never. And then they come to look for a job in Nairobi. So ability to have those exposure, I think, is important, but also trainings and discussions around what other people want in this world. What do we see ourselves? Those kind of programs is very important. And that's why you say that training plays a key role to that. Anybody with a different view, experience that they have seen? Did you feel discriminated? Do you feel discriminated where you work? So right now it's 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Anyone? 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Anyone? Anyone?
Hi, Catherine.
Hello, Sabrina.
Okay, Sabrina. Okay, where I work, okay, it's a public service. So it has a history whereby at one point the director was a Luo, so too many Luos in almost all stations. After that there was a Kisii director. Then after that you have too many Kisiis, and I was being told those are stories where I'm being told people are being removed from villages.
Mm-hmm.
So the first experience when I joined the organization, I'm wondering, why is everybody speaking Kisi and Luo?
Mm.
The corridors, yeah?
Mm.
And me, I've been brought up in a way, you are just, all rounded.
Yeah.
And where I was from working before, it was just English and there was nothing like that. So I was really wondering. Then later, as time passed by, now currently we have a Mero director. Then what he does again, he's also fighting for now people from Central to take up most of the leadership position. So you see, when you have committee again, there's no balance and all that. You find yourself you're left out. You have the ability to perform, but from the time you joined, it's a play of tribalism. It's a play of it's not interesting. So even like things like DSA, something you can go and somewhere and do something important or something that would benefit the organization, but you don't have that opportunity because it's all, do I know somebody? It's all tribalism. So it's really not interesting. And at the end of the day, I think it all goes back to leadership.
Yeah.
Because if you're put in such a place, would you want that? Yeah,
Wow.
you would want
Yeah.
that to stop, and you just bring something different on the table.
Okay, yeah. So we can sum it up from what Sabrina is saying is that the culture in that organization is needs to be overhauled from a leadership perspective of, when I get into the higher seat in this organization, the first thing that I will be doing is bring my people, the people from my tribe, and filling them in and stuff like that. So that's the kind of leadership, okay, those are kind of conversations at that level that we need to start discussing, and very, very openly. But are we ready to do that? That is always the thing. I'm waiting, another tribe comes in, I bring all my people from my village, sometimes whether qualified or not qualified. So it's hard for other people to be able to perform and to give it their best. What happens is that people become demotivated, and these are things that we are all aware of. So I won't even I'm starting to sound like a broken record now, because there are things that really demotivate people, good talent leave and go and look for something else. So culture plays a big role. So and the leadership really sets the pace on how the culture in organization is going to drive performance. Okay. So we say, when you are part of a diverse group, it is crucial that you always stick to the official language of communication, whether it is local or global, that has been decided by your organization. This will help the people from different cultures to be more comfortable in a group, and they will not feel lost when the manager or the employees communicate in languages other than the official language of communication. So drive that, and make it a big tip in your organization that we use the official language. We are proud of the official language. Everybody is included in this, in all this. So that's good. And we are saying that all lives matters. All lives matter now, everybody, and it's a big movement in the world right now, and many HRs are doing that. Okay, so what are the elements of culture? What would you say are some of the elements for culture? Elements of culture, anybody? How culture plays a big role in making sure that we can drive diversity? Look at them, yeah. Okay, so and we talked about this yesterday. So the following image shows the various elements of culture that affect the way a person perspective, thinks, believes, behaves, communicates, conducts himself or herself, etc. Do we agree? We can talk about family, we can talk about language, work and leisure, what I like to do. Someone said religion, that was very true. Reference groups, education, intermediary actions, culture change, culture adaptation. So the culture analysis of when you go to your organization, these are some of These are some of the drivers that you would look in terms of how is our culture informed based on some of these things that we are talking about in this slide. So family, how does family affect the way a person thinks, believes, behaves? Family, the family is under attack, especially after COVID came. As we have seen in many articles, some relationships really broke, some relationships really became stronger, and that's what we wanted, you know. Some people are able to reflect and become better human beings around their family. So it can be immediate family or secondary family. How does your family influence how you perceive, how you think, how your beliefs, your behavior, how you communicate, how you conduct oneself? Let's go in very quickly, each by each, please. Nothing right or wrong. Anyone? Anyone? Even in your own understanding around family, or pick one that you are comfortable with. Language, work and leisure, religion, you know, education. Pick one. Especially if you have not said anything this morning, feel free to plug in. This is a great one, especially if you're trying to come up with a policy and interrogate the kind of culture you have in your organization. These are some of the tools that you can use to be able to really have a strong reference point around changing your culture. Anyone? Anyone?
Hi, Catherine.
Hello?
Maybe I can contribute on family. Family upbringing actually contributes a lot, because I know of a person, I know in their family, they are not allowed to listen to women. So even at work, he comes and he will never listen to any woman, even if it's a leader. So
Wow.
such things create barriers in the
Yeah.
workplace, and conflict.
Yeah. So so that can be a big hindrance to how you view leadership in organizations, whether you're able to take instructions, and it causes a lot of conflict. And every time you will just, wow, how do we deal with this person? Do we let them go? Do we see their point of view? Are they willing to change? You know, so your socialization from a family point of view, very true. Someone else? Thank you, Sabrina. Someone else, please unmute yourself. Anybody else? Please unmute yourself and say something. We're all able to unmute ourselves.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, maybe I can comment about education.
Yeah.
And say that now, depending on one's educational level, you'll find that, you find that there are those people who are highly educated or well educated, and they may have the opportunity or the potential to to look down upon others, to believe that yes, they know, others do not know, and maybe look down upon others. You might also find those people who maybe are not very highly educated, and they will have an element of inferiority, feeling that they are not in a position to contribute as effectively as other people. So I have a feeling education can play a part if we don't if maybe we don't encourage people to to make a contribution irrespective of whatever level. It is, and I saw it when I when I was initially employed. I think it was in the 90s. And there was this element of graduates versus non-graduates. So there was this thing of graduates, so they feel like, okay, now we are the ones who are holding this organization. And then they also find there are also other people maybe who may not also be very highly educated, but they will also look down upon graduates and say, yeah, you have the theoretical knowledge, but you don't have the practical.
It's true.
Yeah, there was a lot of that, by the way.
Yeah. So it's important for us to be able to balance, what do we do about education at our workplace, especially where we find where there are industries like in the agricultural industry, in the gardening industry. There will be constant industries where the education it will not be as high level across board. And how do we make sure that we have a platform that addresses those kind of differences around, well, me, I know it all. You know it all, but I'm the person who does the work. So utajua ujui, things like that. So it's a delicate balance around education. And that's why I keep on saying, get your recruitment right. Get your recruitment right around where we know that there's oversupply of labor in this market compared to the positions that we have. So supply versus demand. So when we advertise even for the position of a driver and get 3,000 applications, which is fine, 10,000 applications, it is okay. But when we sift through those CVs, and we say that we only need a grade 2 test for whatever, but you take a graduate, what are you doing? You are distorting your organization grades. So a graduate comes, they are driving with other drivers who are been there for 10 years with the correct qualifications. You start distorting your culture. So even when we look at the aspect of how to support diversity and inclusion, let also have strong recruitment processes around bringing in people, because this graduate is only there for a short while. He'll say, well, I got a job now. Okay, fine. But now that I am in a job, I will start looking for another job. That is not how we want to run organizations. So recruit right from the beginning, whether you feel, well, but a graduate will come and do much more work for me. No, they will not do much more work. They'll only do for you much more work the first 3 to 5 months. After that, you've lost them. Please look at your data over time of recruiting wrong in organizations and what it has done to play around culture, diversity, and inclusion in the organization. So thank you for that. Unless someone is of a different opinion, anybody else would like to contribute around recruiting right and how it plays a role in driving your culture around diversity and inclusion? Anybody? Okay. The elements of culture, someone else pick something else, something that you're able to look at and how it influences your thinking or where you are right now, beliefs, behaviors. Unmute yourself and let us know. Please unmute yourself. It's good to hear from other people. Someone else?
Hi, Catherine.
Hello.
This is Lynette.
Hi, Lynette.
Hi, I want to comment on the culture, the last one, culture adaptation.
Yes.
And my thinking around that element is, for example, like we HR practitioners, when we go into, say, a new organization, you find a certain culture, people behaving as in a certain manner, then some cultures really put you off and you want to change everything. My experience is it's always good to seek to understand why things are done the way they are done, and then try to bring in new changes. But then the culture in many organizations, the practice is you go there and the people there induct you, orient you into believing like, if you can't shape in, you shape out. So you kind of get into the culture of that organization. If you cannot make any any changes, or if people, the culture there is deeply rooted and you're trying to make changes and you're not able to do that, people tell you to shape in or you shape out. And then so when employees get into an organization, most of them, depending on how rigid or flexible they are, they tend to put up with the culture that is existing, unless somebody is very senior, like a CEO, to change the entire culture. So people people have this culture of putting up with the existing culture in an organization without really making much changes. So as much as I used to behave differently from company A, I would come and change my behavior depending on the culture I find in culture B. Unless I'm a very senior leader to change that entire culture. But mostly people will stop their cultures, what they're used to doing, and adapt to what is existing in that environment in order to fit. Some will try to change. Of course, some succeed, some HR professionals succeed, but when they don't, people take in the culture that is currently existing in where they're working. And that changes the thinking, the way you behave, the way you communicate. That changes completely.
Unless you're a very strong person around your socialization as an individual, around your, sorry, can you hear noise coming from my background? I hope not. The lawnmowers have started their work. So I totally agree. Adaptation and what we said from the beginning at a lower level, where how do we make sure that we can be able to drive culture, a real strong positive culture of openness and trust. That's what we want. Because even the universal accepted behavior, openness, respect, integrity, those across the world, how we are supposed to behave as human beings, form the basis of how we are going to collaborate with each other, isn't it? So we go in and this culture in this organization where people are really not embracing those universal accepted behaviors. And what do? I either conform for me to get my daily bread, or I become just like them. And that emanates from your own social beliefs as an individual. How strong are your values? You remember where I said your values inform who you are, whether I'm going to take this job, I'm not going to take this job, whether I'm going to stay in this job because really this is not something that makes me happy. I don't believe in this. I don't believe in this. I don't believe in people who commit fraud because they'll not be caught and stuff like that. But I keep on staying because I can get myself into the cookie jar as well. So it's up to a person in terms of how strong culture adaptation, it emanates from you as an individual on the kind of values. I also totally agree with what you have said. The top really sets the pace in terms of bringing it all down. Ability to change culture in an organization, it is not the responsibility of HR. For us to have those strong diversity and inclusion programs, the board or the executive team must be able to support us strongly. HR just is an enabler of putting in the programs together, the pillars together, because you're experts. You can become experts in that culture change and diversity and inclusion. But if the top is broken, the culture of what it is, I come and conform and stuff like that. And sometimes when you look at yourself over time, has that made you a better person? Or has that eroded you in terms of whatever? That's why it's important to ask your peers, how am I doing? How do you see me as an individual? What are some of the things that you would like me to change? But we are so, even the people we supervise, so even our family members just asking for really feedback. And feedback can make us very uncomfortable because we don't want criticism. Catherine, no, you you've changed over time. This is not who you are. What is happening around? And maybe you say, wow, the influence in that organization has made me a different person. And is that how I want? Does that make me happy? Does that make me whole? Does that make me complete? So I agree. Culture, adaptation. So at the orientation, what can you take? What can you not take? And orientation starts from the job. Let me tell you, orientation starts from the job you put up, your job advert. That's something that we need to take away from this webinar. Orientation starts from the time you put up your job advert. For me to say that I want, XYZ has advertised for a job. This is something, do I know them? Perhaps I know them. Is it a great company? Yes, I think this is something that everybody would like to work in this organization. So I go and say, but this job is me. I tick all the boxes, you know, and you put in your application. As you're putting in your application, I think it's the responsibility of the applicants also to start doing research on that organization. What would be a deal breaker for me? But many people don't do that. Unfortunately, because we are at different levels in our professional lives. You know, let me tell you the 3 levels that we are. You are either at a place where you need the organization so much, you've just come out of college, university, or stuff like that. You are there to learn and start getting the skill and start moving. After that, you learn the skill, you get to the next level of your career where you both need each other. You know, you both need each other and you are so good for each other. You feel if the organization loses you, they say, oh my gosh, we shouldn't have left her. You know, if if you are let go from that organization, you say, my gosh, that was a good organization. I was not ready to leave. And then the next level is where employers are looking for you. You know, you're a brand in itself because of the value and the talent that you have, you know, but sometimes we lose it as at the 3rd level where we now just think, well, everybody's looking for me. We must be able to remain humble in our successes. And that is something that many people forget and start eroding the culture. So we must be able to know where are we at our level and what kind of influence will be able to do that. So even when we start looking for jobs, you must be able to know at what level am I as an individual, and do these values and the culture in this organization resonate with me? Because there is no way that you can go, let's say your culture does not embrace smoking, for example. And then there's a job advertised by one of the manufacturers who manufacture cigarettes. And then you apply and then you get the job. And then you go antagonizing people. Oh, this is against my culture. We are not supposed to be smoking and smoking is bad. So why have you gone to work in that organization? You get what I mean? So also, let's as individuals and even at how you position, how you recruit, you must bring in strong elements of culture around your diversity and inclusion programs. Will this person be able to fit in our culture? You know, and if they are not able to fit in our culture, please don't employ them, because they will come and antagonize the culture that you have internally. And if your culture is broken now, on the flip side, people should not be joining you. And then you start interrogating yourself and say, how come we are not attracting people, the kind of people that we want to work in this organization? So it's both ways, and it's a lot of work around bringing in good talent in organizations. Okay, great. Someone else? Or maybe someone who would like to add in that discussion. In that discussion, we will not move until we've gone through all the facets of elements of culture. Someone else? And then give our opinions and give our experiences. Anybody about reference groups, religion? I have seen a chat group on the chat, someone saying about religion. And religion forms a big part of our identity. It is also a key influencer and our personal and social societal values. And sometimes it may be prohibitive in terms of our practices, what we cannot and cannot do. As such, it can greatly influence key business practices such as Sharia banking. Yeah, and that is true, you know, yeah. And I totally agree. And the same example goes around. You are a Christian maybe, and you go and work in a Muslim organization, and you want them to embrace. I mean, you want to antagonize them. I think that is wrong. Again, I remember working in an organization where the same organization were Northeastern province, and there were many Muslims who used to work in that program. And it was a very coveted, very big program. And on Friday, we couldn't find them. You know, and we thought, Allah, what is happening? I can't get the program manager. I can't whatever. Then, Friday at 1 o'clock, you won't find them because they've gone to pray. So you start relaxing and saying, well, you need to embrace that, and you know that on Friday. So it became around around having a policy around accommodating different religious beliefs and prayer days and stuff like that. That might not work for many organizations, but progressive organizations would want to embrace that. That won't hurt you, you know, around giving people 2 hours off between 1 and 2, and they come back at 3 and they're able to work and stuff like that. That further informed a policy around, why don't we just leave work at 1 o'clock on Friday and bring in earlier working hours? Instead of us coming in at 9, why can't we come in at 8 o'clock to cover in all the hours? So there's always a way of working around different cultures to accommodate different people who come from various diverse groups around what we are saying, that we are an equal opportunity employer. Someone else, thank you for that. Religion, whatever. Religion affects the teaching and other assignments. Oh yeah, seventh day is very true, Agnes, and very true, Caroline, of what you have said. Yeah, family culture makes us who we are. Yes, a lot of influence from our parents, how we were brought up, are very, very true. Thank you for that. Yeah, someone else? Someone else? Thank you for those chats there and just contributing around it. What have you done in your organization to be able to accommodate religion? Or you are non-partisan. You come with your religion. This is how we work in this organization. We don't pray before meetings. We don't profess our faith. You know, yeah, such kind of thing. Anybody who works in those kind of organizations? We've talked a lot about language, you know, embracing everybody, making sure that people can understand what other people are saying. Work and leisure, where people find their passion around. I've seen a lot of people who have gone for coaching and they said, this is where I want to be. I just want to be a coach in this organization. Are you able to carve out something like that, and finding their purpose and stuff? And also other people resigning and saying, you are not being able to accommodate the passion that I have and the opportunity. So let me go and look for them somewhere else. You know, anybody else? Anybody? No? Okay. Okay. Okay, so we can move forward. So some of the visible and the invisible components of culture, you know, so the iceberg, you know, the tip of the iceberg, we talk about for us to be really, really drawn into diversity and inclusion, we must always think as HR practitioners of the iceberg. The iceberg is we see the iceberg from, it's very small tip, and any ship would want to make sure that they don't hit an iceberg, because then a big disaster, big disaster. But so the iceberg, we see it, we understand, but below and beneath is where it all forms. You know, when I ask you, who are you? Let's say making an introduction, and my my brief introduction of my name is Catherine Ramongi. I'm a HR practitioner. I really enjoy training. You know, my 1 minute introduction. Those are some of the things of who really I am. But when you look at yourself and say, who really am I? You know, as an individual, that's really who you are, and that's what the bottom part of the iceberg, and that's what we want to discuss. And how do we make sure that when we take that to the workplace, it forms a strong component around diversity and inclusion, and how do we make sure that those programs are actually actualized and also adhered to? So the visible daily behavior, isn't this what we see, the body language? You know, I'm sitting in a meeting and I'm just looking and just non-participant, really off, you know, my demeanor, I'm looking, or just very far removed. My presence is not there at all. Body language plays a big role, you know, and as HR practitioners, we must also learn to listen to the said and to the unsaid. The listening skill is something that is really lacking in with many people. Clothing and lifestyle, this is what you see, you know, we form a certain way of addressing, you know that always, Catherine, you can always form a pattern that this is how Catherine dresses and stuff like that. You can almost a creature of habit, you know, this manager is always in a suit and tie, 3 double whatever, with a flower on his lapel and stuff like that. The lifestyle, you know, being able to look at your lifestyle and say, well, affluent lifestyle, a frugal lifestyle, you know, and stuff like that. Drinking and eating habits, you know, stuff like that. And it's so nice to be, I like to think about how nice it is to grow over time and really have a position as a person. You know, when we were small and maybe whatever, when your mom packed for you ugali and skuma to go to school, you just thought, really, my mother, is this all you could pack for me? You know, and you're thinking other children are eating chips and they're eating hamburgers and stuff like that. But right now, I mean, my lunchbox, when I take it to work, you know, it has ugali and that's kuma, it has matoke, it has really healthy food. And when you look back, you just thought, well, my mom is really doesn't have it, you know. So things like that, and people, whatever. So it's nice when you mature and don't keep up with the Joneses and stuff like that. So the visible behavior, the daily visible behavior, is what really informed people, and they judge from that. However, the deeper meaning of culture and how it influences diversity and inclusion is what we really need to work on. You know, values, and we can look at it from the previous slide, of values and social morals, you know, family values, our sexual orientation and friendship patterns, and then the basic cultural assumptions, national identity, ethnic culture and religion. I would like to pause here and say, how has when you have someone who's always has negative, uh, who is always negative around things that you want to do in the organization, how would you help them? How do you help them to bring them to the fore? You know, someone who never contributes to meetings, will never say anything. How? And you ask them, Catherine, what's your opinion? Would you like to contribute? No, I have nothing to say. Honestly, you have nothing to say. 2 hours into the meeting and you have nothing to say. How as a manager would you be able to embrace them? Because they are the same ones who go outside there and they have a passive aggressive nature and influence everybody at the coffee pot. You know, mlisema hivyo kwa mkutano, haita work, shauri yenu, mimi najua. How would we be able to bring those people to the fore? Because Kenyans are known at corporate level to have a very passive aggressive culture. agreeing at the meeting, and the moment you leave the boardroom door, that was rubbish. They just they had already made the decision. Why were they calling us? And you didn't voice. You asked, do you have anything to say? And you said, no, I have nothing to say. How can we help such kind of a culture?
Look, Catherine, I used to have that kind of person some time back, and what I did was to entirely involve them, because I studied them. They were not responding. They could not, participate in meetings. They were like, I have nothing to say, but I began giving them roles in the meeting. At one point, I made one a secretary. So really, when you're a secretary, you simply have to take notes and make a presentation.
Yeah.
At another point, I made another one the chair of that meeting. Because again, you look at the nature of work you're doing. If it's not something very senior, like anybody can secretary, anybody can chair, you look at the tasks you give them. A role, they know this is my role. I'm not just here as a participant. I have something I have to deliver. I have minutes to take. I have a presentation to make. I have, it's me making the opening prayer, the closing prayer. It's me doing ABCD. It's me ensuring that the meeting room is set up. The projector is well set up. You give them roles which you actually hold them accountable. Like if you get a meeting is not set up well, you can go direct and ask them, Catherine, you were supposed to do this. Through that, you get to engage them. And at the end of the day, in the beginning, they may feel like you pushing them, but at the end of the day, you're helping them, you are engaging them, you are involving them.
Yeah.
And a few days down the line, you get them parts, they end up feeling part of the team.
Yes, true.
Such kind of character, give them roles to play, roles that you can hold them accountable, roles that they have no choice but to talk, to say something.
I think that's a real good strategy. Yeah. Give them roles, hold them accountable. Yeah. Whether they like it or not, then they start participating. And of course, with that, then they start also maybe enjoying and seeing, well, the manager wants the best of me. And they start reflecting and saying, why did I have a negative attitude towards this? And it's actually something that I can really benefit from. So yeah. So you remember where behaviors and attitude play a big role, how an individual shows up. We always told, no matter what the circumstances, show up, let me embrace, okay, actually the other person is not so bad. And other people they start accepting them and are saying, oh, okay, it's not too bad. So I'm also able to change. Yeah. So well done. Someone else, how would you embrace them? Would you look, maybe another way, an easy way is start looking at how to manage them out, start thinking, this person, we need to manage them out. How else? That's a very good example, a good way and a practical way that you did. Well done. Someone else? Anybody else? Anybody else?
Hi, Catherine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually concur with Kintu.
Yeah.
It's giving them responsibilities. You can even make them leaders of work groups. And where decisions have to be made, sometimes include them in, ask them what they can contribute towards that decision.
Exactly. Yeah. What can you contribute? And stop there and let silence be. Silence is golden. Sometimes as Africans, we are so afraid of silence. We need to keep the conversation going. That's how it is. But let people reflect. Silence is not bad. 5 minutes of pin drop silent and reflecting and say, well, maybe we need to think about it right now. Let's just take 5 minutes of reflecting through and see how it's going to be. Pick them out and say, well, you've not said anything, and I'm sure you have some very valid points, and I'm sure you've been thinking about it. Could you let us know how you're going to do that? So embracing everybody. Okay, great. So the layers of culture in organization and how they build onto diversity and inclusion. Culture consists of 4 layers, of various 4 layers, levels as follows. There is the core, there is the deeper layer, there is the inner layer, and there is the outer layer. So The outer layer is the national culture. And that's why I say, what kind of culture do we have in this organization? Provides a cultural context within which the business operates. You know, how are people looking at us as an organization? What kind of business are we in? What kind of services do we provide? So what people really know us for as an organization. What kind of brand do we have? Do we have a strong brand? How is our employee value proposition out there? Do people really feel that they can work with us? Do people feel that they trust the brand? And the people can, in a minute, destroy a brand, isn't it? Either a big brand, a small brand, a brand that is trying to grow. And also people try to malign each other because of unfair competition. The inner layer, the business culture, where the rules of the games are known, you know, really there, you know, that is where the business culture, this is how we do our things. This is how we really mix the coke. This is our pattern. This is our big secret as the business. You know, this is where we should never share. Employee is resigning, and they come and tell you, well, I will be leaving, and you find out, oh my gosh, they are leaving to competition. There goes they know our inner game. You know, what do we do? But if you have a strong culture, as culture that supports a culture that supports employees, and they are living because of growth, you can be assured that they will not take out your trade secrets. The only thing is that they will be mature enough to go and say, this is, I am held confident. I say that I would hold confidential information for this organization. I will only be able to use what I can use to better myself in this whatever, but I will not be going to say, you know what? This is their pricing index and this is how they do it. You know, you will just be able to use some of those models to better it, but you're not coming to say A, B, C, this is what they do as a mature person. Because remember that you might want to go back to that organization, isn't it? Because they are good. You're just left because you have a greater opportunity and a greater career growth. But looking back maybe 5 years, they come and call you and say, we would like you to come and become the director of sales or something like that. And you're happy to go back because you think, well, another growth and milestone in my career. And they believe that they've caught up with you during your journey. They know that you've been good and stuff like that, and you're coming back. So it's important for us to know even how to take ourselves out when we get another job, and how much can we share with a new employer. So the deeper layer, the organizational culture, a common set of values shared by all within an organization. All of us are here. Remember me, I keep on saying, even when I'm employed in this company, I also have interests. I'm not just HR, you know, and people forget, and I come and tell them, do you know, I'm also an employee of this organization. I just have a different function, like you have a different function. So how do we make sure that we can work together for the greater good of this organization? So just don't look at me as HR. I also work here. I have the same interest of growing my career, getting paid for equal work, equal pay at the end of the month. So we are in it together. So the common sets of values shared by all within an organization. And then the core, the individual. You remember where the behaviors and the attitude come together? Basic assumptions, rules, and methods dealing with problems because of who I am as an individual. What really drives me? What motivates me to be able to be here? And that's why now, when I come really as an individual, believing in my abilities, what I can do, my socialization, what really is in it for me, then it's easier for me to plug into the organizational culture. It's easier for me to believe in the business culture and what we do. And then it's easier for me to know that if when I go to a cocktail, well, you know, I work for ACHRP. Let's say we are all employees of ACHRP in this webinar, and we come and say, this is the company that I work for. You're proud of the brand, and people say, oh, okay, is there a job there? And you ask someone, well, which are in our website, we are looking for these people. And someone says, I think that is something that I would be interested in. And you strike a rapport and you say, well, it's a real great organization. And they ask you what you like about it. And you are just saying it like this. If not, that is not where you are right now as an individual in terms of really being proud of the organization that you are in, because you believe in the culture, you believe in yourself. We need to have an engagement survey done. Okay. So any question, any contribution to the layers of culture? And these layers of culture would inform you at every level, you know, national, the inner, the business culture really informs your strategy, where you are, you know. Your organizational culture informs the policies and how people-centric you are, you know. And the core layer, I mean, informs you as an individual. What kind of, how do you want to be managed in this organization, you know? So every layer has a possibility of creating a great brand as of you and as for the organization. Anyone who would like to contribute to that? There's always a nice tip at the end of every conversation and discussion. The best way to learn to communicate with people of different cultures is to find out the various cultures that people in your team hail from, you know, in a sensitive and fun way. They conduct you can conduct through the research, you know, and really talking to them. Make sure that you are open and honest with people you communicate with. Be open to feedback and ask questions and learn more about person cultures, their likes and dislikes. You know, you can come from a culture and you say, I don't like this about my culture. And it's something that we struggle with or I struggle with. So I don't believe in it, but I also respect that many people may be agree to it, but it's something that whatever, so that you also create a healthy engagement with the way people also look into it. Yeah. Questions around layers of culture? Do you believe that people would keep your trade secrets around the inner layer if they left your organization? Are you people-centric enough around your deeper layer for people to support and to be able to keep your trade secrets when they go to competition? Feedback around that? Or they go and you are very concerned about their how they go? Anyone? Please contribute and let me know. Anyone, please? Anyone? Just your take on it. Your take on it, how would that be? Waiting before we move on. At least, yeah. Please tell me. At least you must have something to say. Definitely. Anyone? Yes, I work for a Chinese. I'm going to the charts now. Yes, I work for a Chinese company and they actually don't understand why we should worship God. You see, around religion again, yeah. So rotational, participating in meetings, that, thank you. That was how to bring in people who do not talk too much or have an off demeanor, the training, yeah. Okay, so yeah, someone has to leave. Thank you, Florence, for attending. Someone else? Okay, so we can go on. Thank you. So feel free to plug in there and whatever. So how do we communicate across diverse cultures? High context, low context. What does that mean? You know, so the difference in communication across different culture concerns with the way in which information is transmitted or communicated. All information transactions can be characterized as high, middle, or low context. What does that mean? Anyone? And something that we touched on yesterday during the webinar. Anyone? Anyone around high context, medium, middle context, or low context? What is high context? What do you think high context is? Middle context, low context? Okay. Someone just say hi then. It's good enough for me to know that people are still engaging with me. High context, low context. Eric? Grace? Mary? Anyone? Mariam? Hi, thank you. Anyone around that? Recap? No. Wilfred? Anything? Sheila, Martha, Catherine, my namesake? Anything around high context, low context before we dive into it? Understanding? Valerie, Simon, Lucia? No? Okay. I'm sure we'll all be able to look into it. Okay. So for communication across diverse cultures, and we say that where we come from, what we believe in, the culture of Kenyans, the cultures of a certain tribe, you know, really communicate with them, and then the organization tries to bring one strong culture for us to be governed from. Okay, so for high culture context transaction, the message is sent through the facial expression, body language, in between lines from the receiver, and only minimal information is transmitted through the message. That is implicit message. A high context culture is culture that communicates mostly through implicit message. For example, the Chinese, like the high, you know, you come and say, this is what it is. And I set the tone and this is how it's going to be, you know. And an example of the Chinese, you know, they don't give you an opportunity to really talk back and to give your views and stuff like that, which is another kind of culture, implicit message. This is what it is and it's gonna have to be it. And you go away feeling bad. Implicit. An implicit kind of, is that the kind of culture you have in your organization? High content, high context, where you feel that you cannot reach in metaphor, you know. So where you also, an example is where when you are young and you break a cup and your mother says, endo utoe hata zile ziko kwa draw uvunje zote. You remember that? Is it, you go and decode the message, you know. Context. How does that make people feel? Is it a good way of communicating? Is it the right way to communicate in metaphors? Does it have a place of diversity in the organization? Implicit. Someone can give another example as well. into? Patrick, Sabrina, high context culture.
Hi.
Mm-hmm.
I, okay. I think I've experienced it maybe from individuals, maybe individual bosses, who will not come out very clearly about what they expect. But you will maybe you'll be able to see it from their facial expressions. Sometimes when they look angry about something, but they are not coming out, very openly. And maybe you can also see it in practical examples where sometimes they become vindictive. They've not really come out clearly that this is what I expected, but you'll find them, reacting, very harshly, or for example, you could find them even, taking action like a self suspension, or even a dismissal. Yet they hadn't come out very clearly about what they expected.
Exactly. Yeah. Unfortunately, around this is what I want, sending a message, a different message compared to the action that they will take, or taking an action and their body language is saying something else. So sending different messages, conflicting messages, which are very difficult for people to be able to understand. And it goes very bad, in terms of communication. It leaves a sour taste in someone's mouth. Yeah. Someone else? Implicit? An implicit message? An example? How does that make you feel? Or the teacher saying, okay, msisome, mtakutana na exams huko mbele. Didn't we have all those kind of things when we were growing up? Yeah, my age of brain was full of metaphors, Sometimes people take it to their place of work. Yeah, high context, not really saying what you want to say. Transactional, facial expressions, body language, in between the lines. They almost, people tell you, well, when you work with that manager, you have to always read between the lines, isn't it? A very good summary of what Patrick has said. Read between the lines and you will get the answers over there. Don't whatever. Okay. So low context, the low context transactions, most of the information must be transmitted message in order to make up for what the message missing in the context of the explicit message. A low context culture is a culture that communicates mostly through explicit message. For example, English, rich in depth of language. An example of this, implicit and explicit. An example, Patrick, maybe you can finish with an example. Explicit, just like what implicit, explicit. You're very explicit in your explanation. That manager is always very explicit. When you go there, they will explain to you and you will be able to get exactly what they mean. Anyone? Anyone?
Hello, probably I could add, I guess in such a scenario, it's harmonious in working because you then avoid a lot of back and forth. So we are able to accomplish tasks very quickly and be productive.
Yeah.
Because everything is clear. And also in terms of feedback, it's also helpful. And so when you come, when it comes now to the time for performance appraisals, at least it's clear in terms of it was progressive. Every time, whatever task you're given, the explanation is clear, and there's also the tendency of receiving feedback.
Yeah, explicit. Very explicit in what I said yesterday. Did you understand it? Why is it not done the way it should have been done? You know, you have empathy. You are putting yourself in the other person's shoes. You are actually holding their hand. You are showing them explicit message. You know, the CEO has sent a very explicit message that everybody must work from home until the situation is contained, and will come back to you. You know, and then you go and say, what does that mean, working from home? You know, and how is that going to be done? And then they think, oh, we've just given a communication of people working from home, but how is it going to be done? So we think, and maybe also elicit for feedback. What does it mean working from home? Maybe can you facilitate me to have internet at home? Can you facilitate for me to have voiceover? Can you facilitate for me to have my computer brought home and for me to have a seat? You know, things like that. It's explicit, and people feel that they're included in that, whatever feedback is given. But again, around our behaviors and around our attitudes, will we be accepting that because they just say, well, they communicate too much? It's difficult to please everybody, isn't it? Even with the best of intentions, there would always be people who misinterpret that and want to read too much, which is not what it is. So it's important to be clear in your message, brief and concise, and leave room for people to ask questions. So explicit is the best way to have compared to implicit. You know, you grapple in the mud, in the dark, and you don't know exactly what is happening around there. Anybody else who works in an implicit environment, and who works in an explicit environment? Which would you rather be? Or if you are a people manager here, how do you manage your people? Would people call you an implicit manager, or would they call you an explicit manager? How do you pass your communication? It's also very important. And also it's informed by the kind of culture that we come from. You know, how do we become bearers of bad news? Do we pussyfoot and take it round, you know, and till the end, people have to read for yourself and say, lay it on the table. I mean, you've gone to Kathmandu, you're back, you're still not telling me what it is. Just tell me, you know, because again, of the kind of culture that we come from. Some people are very direct. In their cultures, they will say as it is, and some people want to massage the information so that you absorb the shock and stuff like that. So it's the kind of business that we do, the kind of culture that we have, but all cultures must be empathetic of the person who's going to receive the message, especially if it is a message that it's really going to shock them. It is bad news or bad message. You're going to lose your job. Why are you losing your job? Because you're losing your job because of A, B, and C. Losing a job must follow the correct process. That is what we fail to do. You know, whatever process of someone losing their job, separation, death, medical illness, retrenchment, it must follow the prescribed processes by law and by your company policies and procedures. Okay, yeah, okay. Someone else around communication across diverse cultures and how it actually contributes to diversity in an organization. Anyone? Okay, great. Yeah.
Hi. Maybe I can just add a view and say that maybe this is like comparing two managers, whereby you might find one manager is very explicit in terms of what are his expectations. This can be communicated through policy, you know, constant memos, you know, email messages, and so on and so forth, as opposed to another one who will say that this is what is commonly expected. This is common sense, you know. And you will find that, for example, maybe if somebody does something wrong, they'll say, but the common sense tells you that this is not acceptable, and you'll find maybe very severe consequences. But there are those who will always, for example, I'm saying, communicate through a memo and say this is what we expect. this is what we don't expect to be done.
And in your view, Patrick, which is the best mode of communication?
My view is that the explicit one is the best mode of communication.
Exactly. Yeah. Where we are able to talk, you know, even communication, face-to-face communication, verbal communication, we're able to demystify any we're able to clarify, people are able to ask questions, continuous engagement around. Yeah, we can write a memo, but writing a memo is a matter of follow through further to what we discussed, so that we anchor it and there's a point of reference of what we have done. But if you're just sending out memos every day, you know, when do people really get to engage and form those kind of policies and stuff like that? So it's important for us to have that. Yeah, there's a comment from Simon Bogwa. Hi Catherine, Boro, sorry. Hi Catherine, on the layers of culture, I believe the core layer should be benchmarked with the other layers when setting on the best fit candidate during recruitment. No doubt about it. This way you avoid a lot of disappointments for both employers and the new hire, on since it is the end. It is not all about work. I agree. Where we even say about leisure and work, you must be able to get the best fit for the organization. So when you do the moment you advertise, both of us have the ability to come and say, can I be able to work here? What is a deal breaker for me? So totally agree. Where our strong recruitment principles must be anchored around the individual. The moment you have the correct culture fit, it's easier for you to be able to train. If I'm not very good at, let's say, job evaluation, you're able to train me, isn't it? I'm not very good at strategy formulation. You're able to teach me. But if I have a bad attitude and bad beliefs and bad culture, it's very difficult to try and undo that. So it's more of the innate compared to the, it's very intangible. That's what we are trying to say. And Simon, I totally agree. And that unfortunately many recruiters are not taking that into consideration. But along the way, mistakes are done, and then we start interrogating, where did it go wrong? Because we brought in the wrong people in the organization. So very true. Yeah. So why our final topic for today, before we call it a day, is the one that is on the screen: the need for organizational diversity. Why is there a need? When you look at what we have been discussing all through, why do we need organizational diversity? Anyone? Anyone?
Hi, Catherine.
Hi.
I think diversity is good because actually from different backgrounds, I think it's good. And it also promotes teamwork where people can work and drive performance and productivity.
Sorry guys, something happened to my internet. Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, I had spiked down on the internet. Someone else? Someone else? Why is there a need for organizational diversity? There could be as many reasons as we are on this webinar, please. Let's share.
Promotion of inclusivity of
Promotion
different
of
categories of people.
promotional of
Inclusivity.
inclusivity. Yeah. Someone else? Brings in agility, our ability to look at different whatever, then it improves our bottom line, you know, we stay ahead of competition. Someone else? Someone else?
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I think it really promotes commitment within the team members, because when when an individual feels that they are appreciated and they belong, then chances are that they are going to give their best in terms of loyalty. They are going to really work for that organization. They are going to defend that organization. Yeah, because they feel they are part and parcel of that organization, as opposed to what would happen if it was the opposite.
Exactly. Feel engaged, give the best, be motivated, loyalty. Yeah. So diversity is not only needed for legal. Of course, there's be some legal compliance, statutory compliance for you to be able to meet some obligations. Like in South Africa, you know that they're very high on the BE, black empowerment, following the many years of apartheid and ethical or social expectations, and instead there are compelling business reasons for encouraging diversity. So when you look from a legal, ethical, social, and the compelling business reasons for us to be able to have diversity, when you have all this, really, then you should be good to go as an organization in terms of accommodating everybody and seeding our egos at the door and coming and saying, well, we are one big happy family, and this happy family, this the kind of business that we are in, and this is what we want to be known for, and this is how we make sure that we are continuously innovating and creating around our business processes, products, services, whatever we offer. Diversity makes for eminent business sense, and hence must be hardwired into the organization DNA. Is diversity really wired on your DNA? When you think about your organization, what's the one thing that comes to your mind? That really drives that really makes you happy to be there every day when you are there. So the need for organizational diversity, the following are some of the business reasons for organizations to encourage diversity: heterogeneous nature of customer base, a new mix of employees are needed for globalization. And of course, now we know that we're in the fourth industrial revolution, machine learning, artificial intelligence, internet of things, all those things, our ability to leverage on technology will make sure that we get into competition and globalization for our products and services. The looming talent crunch, we can talk about that, and we know that with the fourth industrial revolution, there will be we'll need to upskill, we need to redefine some of the positions that we have in the organization for us to be able to drive business and to be able to outsmart competition. Changing nature of corporate leadership, and we see that changing nature of corporate leadership at the top is leaders who are more vulnerable and more humble in terms of leadership at the top. They are not just thinking it's not traditional, where you say, well, only the older generation can lead. We are looking at people at 24, 25 leading organizations. We are looking at a gig economy where people come and tell you, well, I'll only be able to work for you for 3 days in a week. The rest of the 3 days, I'm out doing other things. I'm working for other people, or I'm just doing exactly what I want. So will organizations be able to leverage on diversity and encourage diversity from those fronts, and not just the traditional way of looking at organizations? You must be here 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, or Monday through Saturday, or whatever hours that you work in, and being able to look at other things that really are going to create, and the disruption that is being brought by in the business because of the environment and what's happening around the world, to be able to make sure that you can still encourage diversity from across the globe. Okay, so let's look at it. Heterogeneous nature of the customer base, look at that, all those people across are represented across whatever. It is no longer a case of customers are made up of monolithic wholes that exhibit consistent and uniform patterns of behavior. On the other hand, the customer base for many companies is splintered into ethnic, ratio, gender, and other segmentations, which means that organizations have to encourage diversity in their workforce to tackle the aspirations and the fragmented customer base. Do you agree with that? That your customers will be drawn from every facet. They will also exhibit diversity outside as you experience diversity inside. Isn't that true? You agree that your
True.
products, yeah. Sabrina? They will be splintered into ethnic, isn't it? That your customer base will also be a reflection of your internal diversity. So we know that, let's say a big organization like, let's say a big organization that in telecoms, let's say Airtel or Safaricom, they need, if they are very high on diversity, for example, let's take it from a customer base. You know that the kind of ratio, gender, ethnic that their products will be bought by people from all these kind of ethnic backgrounds, and diverse. They will be diverse. So it's the same way. For you to be able to be successful as a business, you must also be able to embrace the kind of diversity that is brought by your customers. So you cannot fail to say, well, we really don't care. You must be able to profile and run data, mine data for the kind of customers that you have in your in your business. Otherwise, you will be planning for failure. No doubt about it. Do you agree?
We agree. I agree. When
Someone
you're
else?
diverse, you build a brand.
You build a brand, yeah. Anybody else? Around customer base, how they influence the kind of diversity programs you will put in your organization? Do they go hand in hand for you to be able to actualize your business? Must be hardwired into organizational whatever. Diversity makes the eminent business sense. So we are looking now at external, what it will be able to do that for you. Anybody else? Or being able to make it up like that? Question? Okay. So it's important for us to learn that.
Catherine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Catherine, I'm looking at the diversity that has been embraced by Safaricom, and because of that diversity, Safaricom continuously grows.
Exactly. And it's key to its understanding its customers, what they want, innovating products around its customer, what they want to see, reaching out. So internally, we must be able to mirror ourselves, the diversity that is brought by our customer, being able to know that that is important, and for us to be successful. And that's it's something that many of us as HRs are not looking at the external factor, but that's why it's important for us to work with the product development team. It's us to be able to work with the marketers, the salespeople, what is out there and why are you bringing this kind of product. So for you to be able to also look at your manpower and what you will be bringing into your organization, for us to have to leverage on the internal and the external. So thank you about, yeah. So let's think about that and let's not be left behind. New mix of employees are needed for globalization, especially if you are looking at from an international context where you are multinational. The fact that many companies are growing scorching pace at a scorching pace outside the developed markets means that these companies need to have more culturally ratio and ethnically diverse employees in the target market, and hence they need to encourage diversity. That's what we've been discussing the whole time. That if you have an international outlook, whether local, regional or international, globalization will still get you at one point or the other. We must be able to embrace that. People will come with different expectations, even if they have they all come from Kenya, but they have a different experience. Maybe someone went to school abroad. You know, maybe we need an international consultant. How do we bring them in, and how do we make sure that we encourage diversity around culture, race, and ethnic backgrounds? Okay. Looming talent crunch, and we were on another webinar here just recently, or is it one of the classes that I'm taking at the CHRP, where we are saying that there will be, there's once you ask CEOs, hey, what's one of the things that you are struggling with, and many CEOs will say, well, talent is one of the things that I don't see really fitting well, and HRs need to do better. And we go back to them and ask, what about talent? I mean, you have everybody's inside here and they say, well, the kind of work, we are not being able to meet targets. So there's a lot we can discuss around talent. But I think also the commitment for people to bring themselves wholly to work is one of the things that sometimes we miss. So talent, upskilling, reskilling is something that HR people really, we need to look into around diversity, for people to be able to quickly get into what is happening, leveraging on technology, which is really strong right now. So diverse casts a wide net around the results for better talent, combined with looming talent crunch around the world, you know, traditional ways of doing things. And I keep challenging people and saying, if someone has left in your department, most of the time around backfilling is that, well, the officer has left, we bring in another officer. Really, sometimes maybe we don't need that position. We need to reorganize. We need to think out of the traditional way of just position has been left, let's do it. Do we really need that position? Do we need to upskill that position? Is it a time to reorganize the department? Instead of, that is how you add value as a HR business partner. But for us just to be, well, okay, go and fill it in and this is what it is, go back to the department and say, what do we need? Over time, do we need to upskill? Are the other people ready to take up that position and stuff like that, so that we just don't stay in the status quo, but continuously we are looking at how effective we are as a business and the kind of talent that we have internally, and are we making sure that we are filling in all the competency gaps that are supposed to be there, because that also creates for diversity, for us to make sure that we have talent internally to compete with our competitors. Okay. And finally, changing nature of corporate leadership. Given the global odds that corporate leaders face in these times, decision making is no longer linear and subsequential, and hence the corporate leaders need to have a diverse teams as possible to ensure that they intuit and sense the market better than their competitors sense. The need for the hour is to go beyond traditional notions of corporate leadership and instead draw apart a set of diverse inputs and suggestions that encourage multi-layer viewpoints and multiple perspectives. You know, it's not just the C-suite making the decisions, but how do we cascade it down? This is what we are thinking, this is what we want to do, but how do we make sure that that is inclusive? And it's not just, well, the board has made a decision. We all come out with our files and go and say, this is what needs to be done. But the people, the level of at the bottom is where they know that this is what really is the problem. And we are not including them in that corporate leadership. So everybody is a leader from the lowest of the grade to the highest of grade. And I hope that can be much more, because it will really talk around our diversity and inclusion, and being able to leverage business decisions and be able to make sure that everybody can own them. Question around that? Question around that? Question? 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 So we need to recruit diverse teams to be able to make sure that we get there. Anybody around these 4 corporate pillars? As a sum up, have you seen it working for you? Is it something that you can think about, internal and external? Anyone? Giving a chance for us to be able to look into that. Recap of that. Is it something that you can look into and say that it's really going to work for us as an organization? Anyone? Okay. So that marks the end of our webinar. I would like to hear your takes. Was it useful? Are there things that you can be able to implement? Is there anything new that you learned? Anything? I would like to hear from you now. Unmute yourselves.
Catherine, I appreciate the session today, and it's like all of us, what I've learned is it is a must we embrace diversity to move ahead, even despite us having different, despite us having different generations that work. For us to move forward, for us to perform, it is through diversity.
Great. Someone else? Takeaways? Anybody else? Was it useful? Did you learn something new? Was it interesting for you? Felt that it was good use of your time? Anyone?
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I think it was worth all the time. I think it has opened our eyes. I would say that since the world has become a global village, I think we have really no choice but to do those things, to position our organizations, to compete effectively. And I think diversity is one of the means that we can be able to achieve that. Yeah, that's my take.
Exactly. Well, fantastic. And also, it just goes here to add on to Patrick's, Patrick, what you're saying. Carol comes and says, it seems to me that we have no choice but to embrace diversity in management if our organizations are to thrive in the future. So well done. Yeah. Someone else? Takeaways? Was it interesting? Was it something that you like?
Catherine,
Someone else?
what I've also realized that, Catherine,
Yeah.
Hello. What I'm also
Hi,
realizing,
Catherine.
it's like everything in the organization depends on diversity, performance, any change, everything is entwined on diversity. So it is a must to embrace it.
Okay. Okay, great. We must embrace diversity. It makes the whatever. And for me, really, I like to sum it up like this. Diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance. And that's a very good saying by Van Myers. I like every time I think about diversity, I can repeat it again. Diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is about being asked to dance. Is that where you are in your organization around diversity and inclusion? Okay. Anybody else? Was it useful? Was it necessary? Did you enjoy yourself? I like what Wilfred is saying. Embracing diversity is key since we need to bring the best out of each person as individuals and as working teams for their purpose of collective or for purpose for collectively attaining organizational objectives. Everyone feels valued and making valued contribution to the organization. Very well put. Yeah. Someone else?
Hi, Catherine.
Hi.
I just want to give my observation. No?
Yeah.
I think as a country, and of course now coming down to organizations, we have so much focused on diversity when it comes to the legal aspects. I mean, how many female versus male have I employed? Have I observed the two-third gender rule? That's one of the legal aspects of diversity, and the aspect of employing people with disabilities, persons living with disabilities, especially those of us
Exactly.
in the public sector.
Yeah.
We are very much particular in these two aspects of diversity: the gender rule, the two-third
Yeah.
gender rule, and employment of people, persons living with disabilities. But when it comes to these other elements of diversity, actually many organizations or even as a country, we don't have that. So I think it's high time we looked further out of
Yeah.
the box. We looked further, much more than just the gender and the disability aspect, and look so much deeper into diversity to look at the things we have studied today, the language, the family background, all those things. And
Okay. Yeah.
if the leadership don't support this, as much as HR we have this, you see, as you said it earlier, we are just enablers. If the leadership don't support any aspects of diversity, then it will be so difficult for the HR people to
Yeah.
implement, you know. So the policies could be there, but there's so much theoretical that we focus only on the legal aspects of diversity. So I think we just need to go back, either as organizations or as a country, to see the practical ways of embracing diversity and not just because of the legal aspects.
Exactly.
That's my take,
And
yes.
yeah, and then there's much more, the tip of the iceberg, what we see, but really embracing diversity from a personal perspective, ile utu. That's what diversity is all about, bringing utuness to the business. I don't even know how I can emphasize it more. All these things are layers of trying to conform to the law, but there is much more. You remember what diversity is? um, uh, Inviting people to the party, but really inclusion is making sure that we ask someone, please, now you're ready at the party, the music is nice, come and dance. Yeah, so that is what we need really to think always as HRs. Am I looking at them and not judging them? Am I really embracing them and whatever stuff like that? So let's continue the conversation. I totally agree. Anybody else? Anybody else? Great. So for me is to say thank you very much for your wonderful participation. Let's keep the discussion going. Invite everybody to dance if you've not invited them to dance, then they will feel really totally engaged and running to the next level. I don't know whether Dan is, Dan, are you still in the webinar? I'll hand it over now to you to wrap it up. Welcome back, Dan. Then you can unmute before we say bye. Thank you, Wilfred. It's been an interesting session. Diversity is a must for survival, for the business and credibility and reputation of the leadership within the organizations. Embracing diversity is an enabling risk mitigation and risk management, improving individual and corporate brand. Wow. Entrenching empathy within the organization, making each person within the organization keeper in terms of organization and individual or diversity is here to say embrace it and leave it. Yeah. So thank you very much. I will leave the webinar now for another meeting that is just about to start for me, and we hope to see you in the subsequent one tomorrow as we finish up. Okay. So have a very nice morning, and really make sure that everybody is dancing at your party. Have a very good morning. Okay. Ciao. Bye.
Alois, kuna nduma unataka? Nimeweka leave na haitoki. Nimeweka hapa leave several. Leave meeting.